another topic for the higher tiers then. This one is compound interest. It goes alongside percentages, so make sure that you're fine with the percentages before going through this. So what actually is compound interest? Well, basically, when we take out a loan, we have to, they add a certain amount on top every year, and that's how the person who is lending the money makes their money. That money that they add on is called interest, and it's a certain percentage of the original. So if I loaned £100 and there was 5% interest, they'd add on £5 each year. You get two types of loan: fixed rate, where the same amount is added on every year, and then compound interest, where the interest is added on, and then in the following year the interest is recalculated to add on the new amount. So for instance, if I had £100 in the first year, 5% interest, the money I'd have to pay is £105. Now if I didn't pay any of that, I'd then have to add another 5% interest on, but I'm not calculating the 5% from 100, I'm calculating it from 105. So the actual interest rate increases and increases as you're going along. So with compound interest in interest accounts, it's important to pay the loan off as well. And in most mathematical questions, we don't consider the money being paid off. Obviously, if they did write it into the question, you'd have to deduct money each year. But most of the time they say, well, how much would be owed after 3 years if there was a compound interest of a certain percentage. So here's an example that if you borrowed £2,000 at a 5% interest for 1 year, how much do you have to pay back? Well, we work out 5% of 2,000. And if you remember, what we have to do is divide it by 100 and times by 5, which gives us £100. And that would be the interest. But of course, we have to add the interest then onto the original amount. So now I owe £2,100 and have to pay £2,100 back. So that's just working a simple 5% interest out of the £2,000. Now what happens if you borrow the £2,000 for 3 years and you're not paying anything back? Well, first year, in year 1, we calculate the 5%. 2,000 divided by 100 is times 5 is 100, and we're going to add it on. So at the end of year 1, we owe £2,100. In year 2, then, we take that 2,100 divided by 100 times by 5 in order to get 5% of the new amount, the 2,100, and we've now got £105 that we have in interest. So we add the 105 onto the new amount, the 105 onto 2,100, which means we now owe £2,205. So notice how the amount extra that we have to pay back is actually increasing. It's not £100 in the first year, £100 in the second year, but it was £100 in the first year, now 105 in the second year. In year 3, then, we take the new amount that we loan, so 2,205, work out 5%, divided by 100 times by 5, which is £110.25. Add that on, leaving us with £2,315.25. Now, if you ever do have to do this sort of question, and it does come up frequently, then make sure that you put your answer to 2 decimal places, because that would be leave it at pennies. I would, as you're going along, use about 4 decimal places minimum, and then in your final answer round it down to the 2 decimal places so that it represents pounds on the left side of the decimal point and pennies on the right side of the decimal point. So that's compound interest. Incidentally, we do have something called depreciation, where the value of something goes down by a certain percentage each year. In that case, for instance, a car, if the value of a car decreased every year, it might decrease by 20% every year. So what you do is exactly the same thing, but instead of adding the percentage on, you're taking the money off. So if I had a car, the value of £2,000, and it decreased at a rate of depreciated at a rate of 5%, you'd calculate 5% of 2,000, sorry, 2,000 divided by 100 times 5, and then take that 100 off. So at the end of the first year, the value of the car is 1,900. And then you repeat the process as we just done with compound interest, all the while deducting the value rather than adding it on. And that is compound interest, the topic for the higher tiers only. And I hope you have fun with that. They can be questions which are worth a lot of marks because they're quite long calculations.